And welcome back to Party Trick Astrology. I'm Nina.
I'm Shaina.
And this is the 9th house in astrology, as told by Party Trick Astrology. If you didn't know, we sell readings. Sometimes they're in stock, sometimes they're not. Takes a while to edit these videos, so who knows where they'll be at by the time this comes out. But if you want to check out if they are, go to partytrickastrology.com.
The new rule of thumb is they'll always be all back in stock the first of every month, so just wait until then if they're gone.
What else do we got going on there? We got an astrology course. We've been teasing this for a very long time.
Too long.
But eventually it's coming. This series is supplemental to the astrology course, so the idea is that we do it once this is over. But if you would like to reserve your spot, go to partytrickastrology.com/shop. If you are here on the 9th house video and you're like, but what does my 9th house mean? Well, coming out after this video is a 9th house planetary placements video, and coming out as soon as this video is coming out is a blog post on our website, partytrickastrology.com, that is breaking down each individual 9th house CUSP ruler.
Right. So for all you people who are like, I have Leo in the 9th house, what does that mean? Check out the blog post. For everybody that's like, I have Sun in the 9th house, what does that mean? Check out our next video, which probably won't come for a little bit because Nia's going to be out of town for 2 weeks, but it'll be here. We don't know when. Pisces midheaven.
If you always want to be updated with us, we also have an Instagram. Right. Instagram.com/partytrickastrology.
Now, shall we take a little trip back for the rest of the house? Because it's been a while.
It's been a while. So, how does the 9th house come about in the birth chart? Well, we must start at the very beginning. First, you're born. You have a first impression. Your parents are like, oh my god, you're this. You carry that identity for the rest of your life. That is called your ascendant/your first house. Then, you grow into a toddler. You realize that you have hands and that you can do things, and you have a teddy bear and you have a blanket and you like those things. Those are your possessions. That's your second house.
Self-worth as well.
And it's the foundation for how you'll make your money for the rest of your life. Then you go off to school.
Into my third house, into my little community.
And you're there from K through 12.
Now keep this third house in mind, because we'll relate back to that a bit later.
Then, after you come home from school, you go home. You have your comfort. You have your after-school snack.
The 4th house.
You have your feelings of
your family.
Who you are. More family. Where you come from.
Yeah, baby.
And then once you're done with that, maybe you go to Taekwondo class or something. I don't know.
It's fun.
What do you do for fun? It's the 5th house. It's your creativity. It's your fun.
Self-expression.
And children, because you create your children.
Now we're moseying on into the 6th house.
Done with fun and games.
Fun, man.
Now you have to work. You have to be responsible, have a schedule, have
daily duties.
Oh my god, your body is changing. And your health is changing because the 6th house is also health. Then, you're done with that. You've kind of developed a good point of your personhood.
Right. 1 through 6 is like, this is me, baby.
Now it's time to go into the 7th house.
Ooh.
Your shadow side. Your interpersonal relationships. It represents marriage and what you don't identify with yourself and how you project things that you don't feel are part of you. You project them onto others and then they turn the mirror back on you and like, haha, bitch, it was you all along.
7th house is an angular house, and right now that's the quadrant that we're in since it's the 7th, 8th, and 9th. So these all very much relate to each other. So after the 7th house, we move into the succeeding house, the 8th house.
The 8th house is first comes love, then comes marriage, then comes the marriage bed, joint finances, and existentialism. We have 4 videos on the 8th house, so let's not recap it too much. You can watch those if you want to. We also have a bunch of videos on all the other houses up until now because this is a series.
The 8th house also deals with the melding of people. Yes. As 7th house is the personal relationships, 8th house is the melding, and you're in this deep dark melding one person, right? And after all that shit hits the fan and you're in this dark hole, then you do what? You rise up and you go into the 9th house, the Sagittarius house.
Yes. The 9th house represents a couple of things. It represents your beliefs, higher education, and travel.
Those are like the buzzwords.
Yes. It is the 3rd cadent house, and the opposite house is the 3rd house. The 3rd house is lower education, schooling life, Gemini. 9th house, Sagittarius, higher education, beliefs, travel. This very much is going off of the American culture of what higher education means to America. Typically, in America, the standard thing is you graduate high school and immediately you're shipped off to somewhere to live alone, explore higher education, do lots of partying and drinking, finally have your own independence, and live an essentially very irresponsible lifestyle while you pursue your higher education.
Or responsible depending on what you have in your 9th house.
Exactly.
So the 3rd house is your lower schooling. It's also your community. It's kind of like that tight knit, what's around you, what you know. And if you think about Gemini, the way of schooling, it's very much a memorization of facts, resuscitation in one ear, out the other. You're going to a different subject, you know, for every hour. Whereas the 9th house, it's the things that you major in. It's the things that you really, it's a broad topic that you really want to understand to the core of.
Yes, but it's also the opportunity to explore. College have such random courses like the science of happiness, or if you're a football player, you just might go ahead and take ballet. It's all about exploring and finding what is beyond the horizon, getting kind of out of your comfort zone for the sake of expanding your mind. Now, it makes a lot of sense that the 9th house comes after the 8th house. We alluded to this before, because the 8th house deals very much with existential matters. It's very much getting into the depths of your despair. And the antidote to that is pulling yourself, out of your own issues, and looking beyond the horizon. Also, a lot of people turn to a higher power. The 9th house has a lot to do with beliefs. It ties in religion as well as travel and different cultures. Just pulling yourself out of yourself and seeing what is beyond your community, what is beyond the knowledge that you have so far.
The 9th house also rules spirituality, religion, and you may think, well, doesn't the 12th house, Pisces, have to do with that? But that's more of the sensorial spirituality. It's much more feeling-based. The 9th house is much more knowledge-based.
Yes.
It's much more concrete. It's much more, I've done the research and this is what I choose to believe.
Yeah.
It's not just, this is just what I feel.
Yeah. Sagittarius and Pisces can have a lot of similarities, both being ruled or co-ruled by Jupiter.
Right.
But where Sagittarius in the 9th house really differs is that it is about knowledge seeking. It's not an intuitive kind of house.
It's not just feeling its way through it. It's very much you're making these conscious decisions. It's a lot more conscious, I think, is the word.
Yes, it's beliefs in the sense of what do I have to support my beliefs? What knowledge am I seeking out to support my beliefs? It's discovery rather than Pisces kind of is receptive. Pisces is a feminine
intuitive
sign. Sagittarius is a fire sign. Masculine. The 9th house is masculine. It's about seeking and going out and, you know, being proactive.
What I find, some people with more Sagittarius energy and not much Pisces are much more like, well, is this backed up by facts? Is your belief backed up by facts? And it's like, well, no, I just feel, it's like, nope, I will not accept this unless you can prove it somehow.
There's no room to just feel.
Right. What is right? What is true?
Yeah. What supports this?
Yeah. And going back a little bit, another thing that is beautiful about once you get out of the 8th house, because the 8th house can feel like a full stop. Like, that's it. All there is death and there's nothing after it. But the lovely thing about astrology is that it shows you that there are, what are there, 4 other houses after death? There's a lot of stuff after it, you know?
Yes.
There's a lot of stuff after this inner turmoil, and what's immediately after that is the most positive, beautiful house.
Yeah, it makes sense to antidote deep existentialism and even depression with hope. Turning to hope, turning to a higher power, surrender. The 9th house has a lot to do with surrender as well. It's not a very responsible house.
No.
You know, our entire culture of college is not necessarily a very responsible view of it, you know? It's very much have fun, drink to death.
It's more about go to college for the experience. You hear this a lot. Everybody should try college just for the experience. They like it for the experience. And it's more about the community, about your friends, right? What's in your 3rd house is kind of the traits that you're going to take on younger in your community, blah, blah. And it also can be opinions that are kind of put on you, or the opinions that you're around.
Yeah.
Maybe you're around a very spiritual place, religious, you know, you have Neptune in there, or maybe it's a very regimented, you know, no think outside Capricorn.
Yeah.
So what gets put in your 9th house is everything that you didn't have around you. You're like, God, I didn't have the freedom to blank. You know, Aquarius in the 9th house, I didn't have the freedom to think for myself.
And that's the beauty of the poetic justice of astrology. Always you have opposite signs and opposite houses.
What you go out for in school is going to probably be the opposite of what you took on at your lower education.
Yeah, which is why the 9th house really is about exploring something different, because you're dealing with your 3rd house from ages
0 to 18.
0 to 18. And the 9th house suddenly is totally the opposite of that. The 9th house can also indicate, depending on what you have going on there, what your kind of experience with higher education is going to be like.
If you're thinking, I didn't go to college, so then is none of this valid? It is still very valid. Your 9th house just shows you what you do after school, how you go and find yourself. And it might say you stay and you don't go anywhere. It might say that you travel but you don't go into school. You don't go to school.
Yeah.
It might say you go to 3 different schools. Like a good example is my mom has Gemini in her 9th house and she went to 2 different schools. The twins.
Yeah. Higher education is not simply limited to college.
Yeah. You can go to a different country and learn through that.
Or you can stay in the same place and work at the movie theater.
Yeah.
Like, higher education is not limited to this, that, or the other. It's just sort of the experience of looking beyond the horizon, of being free from what you've known from ages 0 to 18 and looking beyond the horizon, experiencing something outside of your norm, something new, something different. A lot of times travel is associated with it because an easy way to look beyond the horizon is to look to other cultures. A lot of times spirituality is associated with it because an easy way to look out beyond the horizon is to look outside of this world and into the possibilities, the philosophies of all of these other things. And it does rule philosophies as well. Even though philosophies in the Sagittarian and 9th house way is different from the 12th house and Pisces way, because if you've ever taken a class, a philosophy class, there's so much thinking that goes on into it, and it's almost like mathematical and theoretical the way that ancient philosophers came up with philosophies. It's not just like, hi, I'm a Pisces, I drank some ayahuasca, and now I believe this and that and the other, you know?
It's much more brainy. The 9th house, like we said, it represents your beliefs, it represents religion. It can also represent your relationship with religion. Like maybe you have Neptune in your 9th house, you didn't grow up religious, but you found, you're born again Christian. So it shows how you take on also new information in the sense of new ideas. Are you accepting of it? Are you interested in hearing other people's ideas? Or do you have like Taurus in the 9th house and you're like, I don't want to hear it, I know what I think, and it doesn't matter what you say because I have my ideas set in stone and I'm not changing.
The 9th house is viewed as very much a very positive house. There's not a lot of, heavy associations with it. It's typically a very easy, breezy, fun house to have placements in, but a vice that you might find having certain energies in the 9th house is that it can very much be an anywhere but here kind of house.
If you haven't traveled a lot, then you're thinking, like, again, you'd be like, well, I don't travel much, so then it's my 9th house, doesn't matter. But it's how you run away from things. If something in your life is coming up that you don't want to deal with, it's not the Pisces and how do I escape into myself. It's literally how do I physically remove myself from this scenario. Even if that's just going down the block,
Yeah. Looking beyond the horizon is an amazing thing in terms of enriching your knowledge in other cultures and other experiences, but looking beyond the horizon can be a coping mechanism for not looking at what is going on around you. And that can be I'm not trying to preach into the land. It can be a vice.
Yeah, it can be a way to not deal with things. How do you not deal with things and run away from them?
You might not have the best skills, not to really get into specific placements, but for example, Moon in the 9th house, you might not have a very strong skill set in dealing with your emotions because your instinct is to get an anywhere but here attitude, run away from it.
Remove yourself from the situation so that you don't have to deal with it.
Yeah.
The 9th house doesn't have to be as far away as traveling to different country. It can literally just be exploring your town, exploring your city, going out. How you approach kind of going out on the town is really going to be shown through your 9th house. Having something watery, you're going to be more prone to staying in. Having something fiery, you're going to be more prone to going out every night, fuck it. And in a different way than the 12th house shows the susceptibility to substances, the 9th house shows the fun times with it. You know what I mean? Because the 9th house is everything fun. So, you know, it can show, are you experimental with drugs? Are you open to trying things for the fun of it, for the heck of it? Like, this is your party phase. What was your party phase like? You know, did you have one? Did you not have one? Are you in a perpetual party phase?
Yeah, and there's multiple ways to interpret whatever sign is in your house or whatever energy is in your house. Because, you know, a very easy interpretation of Pisces in the 9th house would be like, oh my god, you tried all the drugs. You were like always partying, this and that. Or a good interpretation as well would be, oh, you were just more of a homebody. You like to
I think
chill out and like doze off into your own thoughts.
Yeah, there's a big thing with Pisces that likes the idea of going out more than actually going out, you know? Because we still are in the quadrant of the relationship area. I heard this from somebody, 7th house would be your first marriage, and if that fails, then you're gonna be much more looking towards your 9th house. Now, I don't know if it'd be first marriage. I think it'd just be kind of like your first relationship too. Then you're kind of like, if that didn't really work out, if what you went for, you're going to look for somebody who really matches up with your 9th house, because if you guys aren't on the same page with your belief system, then there's no way you can really go much further, because you can't force somebody to change their beliefs. Somebody can change because they want to, but you can't make anybody. Somebody's a strong-held, like Mormon, and they're trying to date an atheist. There's just things that just they won't match up, and it just won't be compatible. And so when you're looking for a relationship and you find that the 9th house is really compatible, there's a spiritual connection there. There's a higher kind of vibrational connection.
And whatever's going on in your 9th house can indicate whether you are more tolerant to other people, whether you're not more tolerant to other people. Also, the 9th house is a really interesting place to look at transits to see how your beliefs change.
Right. The 9th house is also, if you've ever heard of the account like Beam Me Up Soft Boy on Instagram, that is just 9th house motherfuckers, because it is just, it can get very, what's that word that starts with a P?
Pretentious.
It can be very pretentious. If you're looking at some fucking fuck boy that's like, oh, I read this and that, and they're just telling you how smart they are and all the college courses, you're like, we get it, you have 9th house shit, you can shut the fuck up. It can be very easy to make fun of people with 9th house stuff, because they can just get so up their own ass, all about philosophy, all about, did you try this culture, There's a good way to do it, but then you know just that way that's like 2 9th house that's just like, it's that 9th house that doesn't want to hear what you have to say.
There's an attitude about it. But we also are like super compensative. Is that the right word? Like, as a culture, we also compensate a lot. Like, you know, we're very apologetic if we ever bring up our education or our privilege. So sometimes it's hard to say when exactly the 9th house kicks in, because I know in my experience, and I don't know if this is like senioritis, but by the end of my high school career, I was definitely not operating on a Virgo type of way. I was definitely being more of a Pisces. I'm still being a Virgo in the 3rd house, but I felt like my mental ability was slow as shit.
Yeah, and I definitely felt my 9th house very obviously kicking in, and I think it was so obvious at the point that like everybody saw the shift as well. Just a few months into my senior year, I was like, fuck it, this is my last year, we're going with the 9th house stuff that I've always wanted to take on. So I think the 9th house is really when you just go, fuck it, I want to take on these qualities, like, you know, for better or for worse.
Yeah, for better or for worse. Maybe it's, fuck it, I'm gonna be a Saturn in the 9th house.
Yeah. The 9th house also shows your faith, your positivity. Are you a positive person, or are you kind of generally a negative person? Did you grow up in a place that instilled hope and faith and good tidings, and do you take that everywhere with you, or were you kind of a little bit oppressed in that way, where you kind of, do you have this feeling that you can't be too positive, you can't be too optimistic, you know what I mean? You really look to your 9th house on your positive outlook of life, whether your positive outlook of life is negative or positive.
Yeah, the 9th house is a cadent house, and cadent houses are named so because they are leading into the 10th house. So it makes a lot of sense our mentality is go to higher education so that you can have a 10th house, you can have a career. But in a lot of ways, the 9th house also shows how you react to your 8th house. You know, what is kind of your philosophical takeaway from dealing with existentialism, from your understanding of death? What is your takeaway of what happens after death? You know,
if you have an intercepted 9th house, you might feel like you can't take on these qualities of looking past the horizon. You can only see what's around you. You might not feel like you can have this endless faith in life or positivity. You just don't really have that in you. I have my 8th and my 9th house ruled by the same sign, so very much what traps me is also the same thing that sets me free, and I've always been very weirdly consciously aware of that. Also, not to get too much into the 10th house, because that is our next video, but like Nina said, the 9th house does obviously very inform the 10th house. You need the 9th house because if you don't have a concrete belief system, if you don't have a concrete kind of what you're really looking, the big picture, you can't move into your 10th house and figure out you can't concentrate it.
Yeah,
you don't have this belief backing to go off of.
Yeah, your 10th house is your public persona. A lot of times your public persona is informed by your beliefs and then informs your 11th house, informs your platform.
Just in general, the 9th house is really what sets you free. The 9th house is like what lets you break out of your mold. That kind of qualities that's like maybe people said were too much, that you have too much of, that you can easily overdo. You can't get enough of it. It's fun, it feels good, it feels free, you know what I mean?
It's Sagittarius, it's Jupiter, it's very Dionysian, Epicurean. The more, the merrier. No limits to it. Not boundless like Neptune, but no limits as in like, let's go hard, let's indulge.
The 9th house is still constricted to this world. The 12th house is not, which is why it's boundless.
That's why it's Epicurean. That's why it's Dionysian. It has to do with, you know, experiencing the most of what this world has to offer. And it's still figuring out this world. It's philosophies that inform what you believe about this world. And yes, life after death, because it comes after the death house, but it's still informing only your philosophy of what this life is about. You know?
9th house people in general, like if you have a 9th house stellium or just a lot of heavy 9th house things, or even just Sagittarius in the 9th house, you might find that you didn't do very well in 3rd house education because the way of learning in the 9th house is one subject and it's really fully immersing yourself. It's not as Gemini fact, little tidbit based. It's much more taking the facts, how do you feel about them?
The thesis.
The thesis, it's the thesis of everything.
And similarly to how people with energy in the 7th house might find that their life gets better once they reach that milestone of getting married. Having some energies in the 9th house, you might find that your life, it feels more right, it feels better.
More like your life.
Yeah, it feels more like your life once you get out of the 3rd house and into the 9th house.
It can feel like your life doesn't really start until you get into the 9th house. And the 9th house is really just ages like 18 to 20s-ish. As much as it's about the world as a whole, it is a kind of personal house.
It is about coming into your own.
And another thing about Sagittarius is it never really stays in one place for too long. You know, haven't you ever ridden that streetcar? It likes a little sample platter of everything as well.
I don't think we've ever explained that phrase to the entire full depth of what it means.
Do you want to take this video to explain?
You know what? If there's
ever a video, let's end it with explaining.
It's the 9th house. If you are new to our channel, or if you're not, and you're like, what does it mean? Haven't you ever ridden that streetcar? Let me take a moment to educate you on the great Tennessee Williams, who once wrote an acclaimed play turned into a movie starring Marlon Brando called A Streetcar Named Desire. In a college course, I played the Stella Kowalski, Stanley, aka Marlon Brando's wife, whom he beats. Blanche, her crazy sister, goes to Stella and she says, "You're crazy, Stella. Why are you letting this man beat you up? You're just following desire. Desire, like that rattling, tattling streetcar that goes down the street."
Exact quote. Exact quote.
Because in their town there's a streetcar literally called Desire. And what does Stella say? She says, "Haven't you ever ridden that streetcar?
And that's the ninth house.
That streetcar named Desire."
Have you ever just hopped on that streetcar and been like, this is what I desire. Let's fucking take that
'Cause
streetcar.
that streetcar is rattling, tattling, and cannot be stopped.
No.
Have you ever tried to brake on a streetcar? It screeches and it's like, whoa, I want to go fast. I don't want to be stopped by anything. An object in motion stays in motion.
But that
You know
is
what I
like
mean.
the ninth house. It's you finally going, you know what?
I'm gonna ride that streetcar.
I've so far just used this bike to get places, and it hasn't gotten me in places. I want to just fucking hop in that streetcar and go full force to wherever I've always wanted to go.
That rattling, tattling streetcar.
Yeah, it's loud
Desire.
as shit.
Haven't you ever ridden that streetcar? Comment below if you have ever ridden that streetcar. Comment with the little train emoji if you've reached this far in the video.
That is the perfect conclusion to the ninth house video.
Thank you so much for watching.
And our ninth house planetary placements video will be up when it is up.
Yes. Bye. Ride that streetcar.